That county line is not going to stop.
You should have well, Oh my gosh, do you have your phone? Can you check Double Mountain Chronicle and see if this is going? Oh, thank goodness.
What's his name?
Oh man. The judge is behind the computer screen.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now 3 o'clock. We call this order, session of Commissioner Court to order. We're meeting this afternoon for a public hearing to discuss the possibility of a reinvestment zone for a Russo data center that's going to be built down in the southeast portion of the county. A few things I'd like to say before we start. If you have a cell phone, please put those on silent. That worst thing you can do is somebody trying to ask a question or hear an answer, a cell phone going on. So please, silence those cell phones. I'd like to just go over a few of the ground rules. Can everybody hear me? A few of the ground rules. As you know, we're authorized at Commissioner's Court that can limit in a public hearing like this the amount of time that people are allowed to speak. We elect not to do that. We want you to be able to tell us what's on your mind. But as you can see, we've got a pretty good crowd here.
Goodness.
So what I'd like to ask you to do, if you have a question, please raise your hand. When you're recognized, please stand up, state your name so everybody, and please speak loudly enough so everybody can hear you, especially me. I'm very hard of hearing. So I'd like you to speak up as loud as you could. Ask your question. We will do our dead level best to answer those questions to your satisfaction. If you have a follow-up question, you'll be allowed to ask that. Okay? Once your follow-up question, if you have one, has been answered, please let us move on to someone else. Because a lot of people here, I'm sure, have questions that they want to get cleared up. So we can't allow one or two people to filibuster the whole meeting and take up everybody's time. We've got a lot of people that's interested, and that's great. And I'd like to thank every one of you for being here today. This is government in action the way it is supposed to be, right here today. And so, we get started. As you know, I think all of you know our four commissioners here. Mr. Brandon Westlake is there. He is standing in the back. He's a representative for Caruso, the company that's proposing to build the data center here in Stonewall County. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any of your questions if you had there. Our attorney that we have retained to represent the county in these negotiations just called a few minutes ago. He's been in another meeting similar to this one. He's on his way. As soon as he gets here, I'll introduce him to you. His name is Jake Letterly. He's from Sweetwater. They deal with renewable energy projects all over this area. So when he gets here, I'll introduce him if you have a question for him. If you have a question for any of the commissioners, they'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. So to get started, please. I mean, this is designed to put the information out public so you understand what's being proposed and how we're programming the system. So we all agree here in this thing. I respect everybody's opinion. I expect your right to ask questions. I respect every bit of that. But I ask you to respect your neighbors. We can disagree without being disagreeable. Let's just move this thing forward and try to get the information out that you see today. Any of the commissioners have anything you want to say, you want to add to it? All right, we're going to open this up to questions. So if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll recognize you. Please stand up, state your name, and ask your question. So who has a question?
I have a statement, can I read
Yeah,
it?
thank you. Dan.
You gotta raise your hands.
My name is Daniel Rosenberg. I've done a little research on data centers, and it's, from what I've read, a large facility will use about 1 million to 1.5 million gallons a day of drinking water, which is equivalent to a city of 30,000 to 50,000 people. So that's true, and it came from, this is an AI box, it's called a cell phone. From this, I'm at Google. So if that's true, where are you going to get that water? And since we have a real problem with droughts, I would imagine that would probably force my water bill up. Anyway, that's the end of my question.
All right, thanks for the question. Did anyone not hear that question? What Dan's asking about is the water use, but there's a lot of information out about the data centers. The older data centers that came online, and they've been online for a number of years. When they were built, they used the technology that was available at that time. Most of them were some type of evaporative cooling system, some type of a chiller system. But that was a problem for everybody concerned. The engineers went to work on that, and now the systems that they use to cool these centers takes about 1 million gallons of water to initially charge the system. It's a closed loop system, so you don't lose anything to evaporation or steam or anything. It's a closed system. It maintains basically itself. There may be short amount of time, from time to time, that may have to add a little to it, just like you do your radiator in your car. But they don't have to be completely recharged again for 15 years, from what I understand from Caruso data on this thing. So that system is closed. Caruso has not asked Stonewall County for 1 drop of water. Understand, we've got contractors from Stonewall County as we speak, just drilling wells out there. They're getting groundwater to use for their construction projects, their dust, for their cement, that sort of thing. Caruso has a negotiated contract with another city somewhere around, and I'll let them just talk about that if they wish to. But not 1 drop of water will come from the Astronaut system. So they're not endangering our water system in any way. First of all, we got the city manager back there, and he'll attest to this. We use just about all the water we can gather up anyway. So we don't have any excess water. But they've not asked us for any. That answer your question, Dan?
It did, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Sure.
Okay.
Sally McNutt. I want to talk about tax abatement.
Okay.
It seems that we're already giving tax abatements to the solar farm and some windmill farms. So why should we give this company a tax abatement? They're worth $10 to $12 billion. We have people in this town that needs the tax breaks. We have little people that live on $700 a month Social Security. We have young couples that are just starting out to buy a new home. We have people like me and Buddy that are on fixed income. Why don't we get the tax break? And why don't, if you don't want to, if you could not do a tax break, bring the money in right now, not 10 years from now, now. The hospital needs it, the county needs it, the tax people need it, we need it. We need a tax break. Why should they get it? They're nobody. We live here all our life, and why should they get the tax break and we don't? That's not right.
Thank you. Okay. Tax abatements is a standard way of operating business to try to attract and bring industry into an area. Russo, the data center, Engie for our solar farm, and we've got a couple little wind farms out there. The reason you go into a tax abatement agreement with these folks, first of all, it's a large expense to build these projects.
But they are a large company.
You've asked a question, I'm trying to answer. And if we be courteous to people, when you ask something, let's answer it. And you can have a second question, okay? Because this thing will take all night. You do that to try to attract business and industry to come in, to create more value, more property taxes in the future coming in, and it helps them offset their initial building cost, which is, you pointed out, very expensive. So once they come online, we negotiate an abatement to lower their tax rate some. Contrary to belief, they do pay taxes. Now, what we're discussing here is not a conventional tax abatement. We're talking about what's called a pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes. If we agree with the company to do that, commissioners will attest to this, we abate 100% of the taxes, but we negotiate a payment every year that's a consistent payment year on, all the way through the abatement. At the end of that time, the company has managed to come online, get into production. They've offset their construction costs by then, and at the end of the abatement, which is a 10-year period, then that total value of that project then comes into the tax system as new property. It's never been on the tax roll, so it comes on new property. It's a complicated system, but I'll try to simplify it. When new property comes onto the rolls, it's just like if someone builds a brand new house out here. When we're in the process of doing our budget each year and setting our tax rate to finance that budget, any new property that comes on the rolls during that preceding year, it's set aside. We take what property that was on the tax rolls the year before, that's what we figure our tax rate on to finance the budget. Once we've set a tax rate or agreed upon a tax rate to raise the same funds that we received last year, then that new property then comes into the equation after the tax rate is set, and that gives us a one-time boost in income on that new property. And then that allows us to have that total amount then becomes our base for the following year. That make sense?
Thank you, Sally. What I'd like to know is, have we given these people an abatement already?
No. No.
Okay, so we're starting fresh. They don't have any abatement.
No. That's, before we get into negotiations for an abatement, this is the first step, or first process. We've got an application for abatement and to set a reinvestment zone. By law, the first process in this is to set a reinvestment zone. Once we designate a reinvestment zone, then by law, we can start entering into negotiations with the company for an abatement. But this is just the first step, and we've got to take this step in order to move forward. And that's when the real negotiations will start. Does that answer your question, Sam?
I would just add,
Did you have a backup?
Yes. Okay, so you say, well, we're not going to tax them, but they're going to give us some money. Why not give the whole tax money? If I build a new house, you're going to tax me. I'm not going to say, well, I don't want to pay taxes right now. Can I wait 10 years? No, that's not. No. You done that to me. Let me finish. So, why should they be any different than all of us? What is about them? Yes, we need industry, but this is not the right industry for us. It takes too much water, too much electricity, and y'all are just giving them a free ride on our taxpayers' backs. And that is not right.
Sally, we're not giving them a free ride.
Yes, you are.
Do you have anything to add?
I was just going to add, this is just on the creation of a reinvestment zone. It does not tie the county or the commissioner court into entering Then we start the discussions of what goes into the abatement, what are those terms, road use agreement terms, and then again, there would be a 30-day notice posted before the meeting where the court would vote on a proposed agreement. So we would have to come back again as well, and so we would be able to answer more specific details of what the abatement looks like, what those terms are, what the road use agreement is, any other terms that are in that abatement. So right now, it's just, do we create this boundary where the property would go? It would be subject to an abatement. That's really what this is about. I just wanted to clarify for y'all that no action other than the potential vote to create a reinvestment zone would happen today, which again doesn't bind the court into doing anything or moving forward on any other action. That's all it is today. There would be a separate meeting held come time to vote on an agreement if it gets to that. Just wanted to make that.
And if you build a house, you tax that, of course, it comes on the tax rate. But you can bring extra jobs into the county. That's what we're going to do. You're producing 80, estimating 80, I know, you may not believe that, but I can't help what you believe, I'm just stating the facts. And this is, they're bringing in jobs into the county, and that increases the entire tax base, which maybe will allow us to start reducing some property taxes. So, and I'll answer that.
You're, just, you're right. I don't really have a question, I'm here to help with any questions y'all have. I worked for Abatement for a data center, the construction part, a little over 3 years.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
A little over 3 years.
Both of us here.
I have people that lives in this town that's been working at AI data centers. And it has changed their lives drastically. Now, there is some questions that I have towards Caruso, like, have they named the general contractor yet? So where are they looking at? Is it gonna be an open shop or a union job? Open shop jobs are a lot more easier to get the local workforce in to work. Union job, there's a procedure that you have to do. It can be done, because we've done it right there now. But there's a procedure you have to go through. Remember, if somebody's not already a member of the union. Myself, I worked 30 years non-union. Worked 3 years union. And now I'm working non-union. The money that he's bringing in, yes, it's a tax break, for lack of better terms. But you don't understand the increase in taxes that you're going to get. Sell from gasoline. Sell from groceries aren't taxable, but soda pops are taxable. Restaurants tax their food. Me and Shelley was in Hickman's this week. It's the first time I've lived here that I've seen where it's standing room only in Hickman's to eat something in the middle of the week. And then they even started building. This will give time for other people to come in, other restaurant owners. It will grow. It will grow. Therefore, it takes advantage of the tax break that you're giving the company that's helping bringing the growth to the county.
For 2 years, that's growth for 2 years, that's construction jobs for 2 years. And then it goes to tech jobs. But I have a question for you.
You asked me a question. Yes, it is a construction job for 2 years. Did you know that the AI Center in Abatement hired over 60% of the people that built it to work in it?
Yes.
Those are travelers. Those are travelers. The local people, they hired back in the AI Center to do the maintenance on the building.
Who did they hire to work in the AI Center itself?
They have their own technicians that come in, but the same people to build it is maintaining it.
Hey, Lucas, I want to know how the county is going to capitalize on this, because you go down there to the solar park, It's 20 miles down to Stanford, it's 20 miles up here. It's a paved road all the way into Stanford. If you zigzag through all the gravel roads, you can get back up here in 20 miles. Somebody that's working down there is not gonna come up here, they're gonna go 20 miles down to Stanford. Because they've got the hotels, they've got the RV parks, they've got Walmart, and we don't have good access. So how are you gonna get people up here? We're gonna build a road?
A whole lot of people don't want all those people up here.
Well, I understand that too, me included.
But, what it is, there are jobs gonna be available. Most of it's construction jobs. That's gonna last about 18 months, 2 years. The jobs are there, they're just paying jobs. And people can go down there and apply for these jobs. Yeah, they're gonna go to the bigger towns. Yeah, because the facilities are better, not here. But eventually, when it comes online, then we're starting to look at about 80 permanent jobs out there. The solar farm's going about having about 30 or 40. And hopefully some of those folks will relocate here. But one of the problems we've got here, of course, is housing. We all understand that.
Yeah.
Right.
But you're not
The
gonna build.
benefit to this county is the industry and the growth that it can bring in. And I don't know how many people will move to Stonewall County to live in Ashland. There's no way to know it. I don't have that crystal ball. But I can tell you that it will benefit not only the county as far as finance is concerned, but one of the things that has interested me and excited me more about this is the funds that it's going to bring into our little hospital out here. We are the smallest county in the state of Texas that still has an active hospital. But as you all have heard these stories come in, Mr. Jay Letterly is our attorney. He's
Sorry about you, sir.
You know, please, it happens. But as you've all read these stories, you hear them every day about small rural hospitals closing their doors. We're managing to hang on to ours now. Skin of our teeth.
That's fine,
Skin of our teeth. With the tax dollars that will be coming into this hospital, the way it seems right now, what it looks like, will keep our little hospital viable for some time into the future. It'll not only keep it active, it also probably will allow it to maybe offer more improved and better services. It'll probably maybe increase some on our senior center down there. There's just all kinds of benefits it's going to bring. This lady back here had her hand up forever. I know you are getting tired. Let's go to her first. Yes, ma'am.
If you don't mind, I've got a statement prepared if you don't mind taking a moment or two to read it. Leah Larson, probably know me as Carolyn Swink's daughter. And while I was researching information for today, I was asked, why do I care about this AI center? And to put it simply, I care because my family calls Stonewall County home, as do my friends, neighbors, and all those that will be impacted by this data center. And because of this, I ask, how is this AI center going to affect us? How do we benefit and what's at risk? I think that's what everybody's here for. How would this affect Ashland's local economy? And I've heard that brought up. Currently, several of the employees that are on site are visiting closer towns and communities such as Hamlin, which is 11 miles, and Stanford, which is 19. They're already establishing places to stay, shop for essentials, and eat. I talked personally to the businesses in Hamlin and in Stanford, asking if they have lunch rushers from the solar farms. And it was hands down, oh yeah, all the time. Do we really see those same people rushing to our area for that? The temporary 3 to 4 year employees are raising those communities' revenues and not Stonewall County's, which is holding all the risk. Stanford and Hamlin are already establishing those RV parks to accommodate for the temporary employees. While we have a few visitors, it's not going to be the economic boom. How will it affect our school? With the location of the AI site being on a flat top 11 miles from Hamlin, the Hamlin Collegiate School will obtain all the benefits of having that relationship. Okay, not only financially, but educationally as well. Those are scholarships. Again, I feel like we're raising the revenues for a neighboring school but not on Stonewall County Ashland ISD. This makes me wonder, how are we benefiting when we hold the risk? What is the risk? Water resources. Diverting water from our agricultural needs, strain in our water supply, reduced water quality, or even establishing future issues of eminent domain. This is creating an issue for competing for resources, especially issues for water in a high drought area. According to the Double Mountain Chronicle, Crucio, representatives are already, as you said, on site drilling for those wells to identify surface water sources for use during construction. The amount of water used during construction can consist of thousands of gallons per day. That initial filling, 1 million to 5 million gallons of water. That is 70 times what our whole town uses. It's going to strain our rural aquifers before it even gets started. Also, Stonewall County citizens are already seeing issues with our local water quality. Our water supply has already had issues with exceeding the maximum contaminant level of trihalomethanes, known for reacting with organic matter in water to cause multiple health problems. Several citizens continue to be concerned about these levels, and it's our responsibility as stewards to ensure that we are not adding to it. Data centers can further reduce water quality by leaving behind concentrated salts that degrade soil health and highly concentrated chemicals that can eventually be found in groundwater or other local areas in the form of runoff. Even using the closed loop, non-evaporated liquid cooling system and accounting for that 5 million gallon fill, there's still maintenance, there's still leaks that we have to contend with in regard to this AI center. Texas lacks the laws that require companies to disclose how much water they're using. Are you guys going to disclose that information?
I can't speak directly to that, but
Louder, please.
I can't speak directly to how they would disclose that, but that has been a discussion across multiple counties, and
What about energy use? It wasn't that long ago that Texas was experiencing rolling blackouts. Running a closed loop system requires more energy usage, hence the use of the solar panel project, which might not cover all of it. I've heard rumors that nuclear modules are really what is desired, and solar is only a stepping stool to establishing an AI data center in the area. And if not nuclear, then what? Natural gas? We've already been used as a stepping stool once again. Enter again eminent domain. Where will we run pipelines for transporting natural gas? Where will this nuclear or blue energy go next? Whose land will be lost or sold? Are localized blackouts possible if the electrical needs are not being met? Will residents and local electrical consumers be responsible for covering the need for additional or new high voltage transmission lines that these data centers are going to require? Is the company going to volunteer for that responsibility? Do the benefits meet these risks to our environment and to us, the citizens? If we are not benefiting, please let me finish. I'm almost done.
Please be quick.
If we are not benefiting from the AI centers in our local economy or in our school district and with our children, how are we benefiting? Are we going to receive promises of lower property taxes? And if so, by how? How much? Personally, I don't see our taxes decreasing. I see them increasing instead. With the company's land purchase, the increase in rent, and the increase in asking prices for homes, I foresee the property values increasing as well. With increasing property values comes an increase in property tax. It's a catch-22. I don't believe the benefits outweigh what we're risking. I believe we need more questions answered before we sign on the dotted line. Let's be honest with ourselves and each other. Companies are going to tell us exactly what we want to hear. They have the money to pay the experts who will say or word anything well enough for us outside the profession to buy what they're selling. Why would I give tax breaks to a company for hopes that they will build in our county if they are not benefiting our county?
Okay, we've got.
I'm almost, please,
That's about 15
just.
questions. And we one question and a follow-up, so we better talk.
May I speak?
We can get
Yes,
questions.
please.
Let her finish.
We owe them no favors, okay, they're offering no long-term support. Why take the risk if there's no benefit? The risks go beyond what I've mentioned here today. Let's do our research, see how these AI centers are affecting other communities, and then proceed with questions and caution. There's a multi-million-dollar company going to fight for our rights, our needs, our community, our kids. At the end of the day, we, the people of Stonewall, are responsible for being stewards. Stewards to our children and community, and stewards to our environment.
Do what?
No microphone?
No, I don't have it. Can't give you something I don't have. Okay, that was quite a few questions. What about the school? We've already been discussing Caruso. And when we get into our real discussions and our debate and talk about the abatements, to answer one of your questions, part of that discussion is what will you do for our schools? There's going to be some adamant questions about, Mr. Myers had a question about that. About a certain amount, since our school district is out of the reinvestment zone a little bit, it's going to be in Hamlin. We're going to be asking them to make some donations into our school that will be in contractual basis. That is being discussed.
You said this morning
The
that
water.
the school
Okay,
would
water.
benefit at all.
First of all, they're not using any of Stonewall County's water as far as what our usable bottled water for Old Glory, Astronaut, Peacock, Swinson, they're all on the same water system. They're not going to be using a drop of that. Now, they're drilling some wells that they will use during the construction phase. That water will be used out there in the construction. It's going to last 18 to 24 months. Once the construction phase ends, those wells will still be there, and they've already assured me that that water, if anybody needs it, it will be made available to the county for its use. Now, it'll be brackish water. But they're not just going to keep drawing all that water from now on. It'll be used in the construction phase. That's what it's going to be about. And then the wells are there once construction is ended. The water use out there, they're projecting right now that they'll need about 60,000 gallons of potable water a year for their continuing operations. You know what an average household uses each year? On the average, 30,000 gallons. Their use out there after they come online will equal the water use of 2 residential houses. Don't think that's going to break us. But it's not our water anyway. Got a gentleman back there. I'm sorry I don't know your name, but you don't have a bit of hair on your head, so you can ask that question. Speak loud enough for us to hear.
Marvin Kraft, I'm saying you're saying it's
Oh,
projected.
okay, Marvin, I did reckon.
Okay, you're saying it's projected 60,000, and what if it goes over, what do we do?
I'm sorry?
You're saying it's projected 60,000.
Yeah.
But what if it goes over 60,000, that's a projection, things will go wrong.
If it does, we're not supplying that water. That will be the negotiation with whoever that's supplying the water for. Our water system is not being used out there. City manager can attest to that. He's sitting right here. And they had a request from someone for some city water. It wasn't Caruso that requested, and it was rejected. You're not supporting their decision on that 100%. So, guy, you have a question?
Yeah, we've talked about the water, who's gonna furnish all the water and all. How many jobs, when this is built, how many jobs is this going to produce for that center?
They're estimating it will be about 80 permanent jobs once it comes online.
And then we've all heard the stories on K-Texas, K-Tab, about the law enforcement, Pasco County, Jones County, they're having problems with law enforcement. They can't hire enough police officers to help these guys out. Who's gonna pay for that when we have to hire the guys, have to hire extra help to help our sheriff department?
From the tax funds that we'll be receiving. And contrary to what people believe, we're just giving them all that stuff and they're not paying us anything. That is the biggest fallacy in the world. They're going to be paying a considerable amount of money every year to Stonewall County and to the hospital district, and those funds can be used for those type of purposes. I mean, let's face it, the whole world revolves around money. Right now, Stonewall County don't have much, but this will give us enough extra to start doing some of these other things that people want. I know the city wanted to institute a police force until they got to checking into it and they found out what it costs to have a police force for the city. They can't afford it. We've got a sheriff, 2 deputies, we've got a jail, a dispatch center. We spend about $450,000 a year for our police force and our jail and our dispatch center. That's what it costs, all of us. Maybe we can expand that some once we start receiving the funds from these 2 projects going on. We haven't got into the specific negotiations yet with Crusoe and the data center. The solar farm out there, once it comes online and negotiated, and Mr. Letterly negotiated that for us, and we negotiated for us again on this. But the solar farm out there, when it comes online, we'll cut a check to Stonewall County in the first, every year for the first 5 years for $1.25 million. The second 5 years of that, they'll cut a check to Stonewall County for $1.5 million. Folks, our annual budget right now is $2.2 million. Think about that figure for just a minute, what that can do for this county. That's the solar farm. We haven't even got into the discussions for the data center, and it's considerably more expensive operation than the solar farm. Yes, sir? Oh, you asked a question this morning. You want to know?
He was holding his hand up for me.
I'm sorry?
I'm back, David.
Okay, Gary, she got your number, Gary. Shorty?
Obviously, everyone has many, many questions. Lots of them have been answered. And thank you because you cut down a whole lot of my stuff. But I still don't, after the tax incentives, because you've kind of gone over that. So immediately after the first year, so if in the event that you approve this, whatever you're going to do, then that would start in 2027?
It will start when they come online.
So
Once they get the construction completed and they're ready to come online, then they will send a certified letter to me stating that they're now coming online with their production. At that point, the abatement will start. Okay? But it won't start before then.
Can I have just one follow-up? It's like when we follow.
Gary, she was asking you that.
So really, what are the long-term protections for the county? If the project drains our resources or the company leaves, who's held accountable? Who pays for the consequences? Have any environmental impact studies been conducted in our area?
You want to address that environmental impact?
Yeah, they'll do their due diligence. I don't have them in front of me, but that is something, again, we can bring and discuss. Again, all of this can be, these are things that can be addressed in the abatement. Where right now the court is taking in y'all's concerns, I'm listening to the concerns, and then again, if we vote to approve, or the court votes to approve the reinvestment zone, it doesn't lock the county into anything, it just keeps it moving forward. But things like, what roads can be used, what parameters you have to stay within, if there are penalties for that. The agreement would have no, breach clauses, so if the company were to breach those, then there are clawbacks on the abatement benefits received. With the 312s, there's, a lot of the concerns can be addressed through the abatement and make them contractually compliant. If an abatement were agreed to, there are compliance reports that we have to send to the judge every year to make sure that we're operating as we stated we would. There'll be a jobs compliance part to it. building a project of this size, absolutely, there are requirements.
I'm almost done, I promise.
Okay.
So respectfully, you have said several times, if the abatement, what are you bringing to us to open the conversation? What information are you opening the conversation with? It almost sounds like, to me, that they're saying, we will provide this information if we get the abatement that we agree on.
100%, yeah. I don't have it here now. There will be another meeting. We have, again, have to post a 30-day notice prior to an abatement being voted on. There will be another meeting after this one, and all of that can be discussed at that point. This is just the first step in that process.
So we can almost have things that we want to ask at this 30-day, that you would then be prepared to answer
Yep.
on these things?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
but after we go into the abatement negotiations, if we designate this reinvestment fund today, and before we come to any final decision on that, we will be advertising in the paper, we will be posting on our bulletin board for 30 days in advance for another public hearing, for the public to come and voice their opinions about it at that time before we take any action on abatement. Okay? That answer your question?
So basically, we're gonna do this over again to know what's in it. Or are we gonna have to pass this, Langsmith? Are we gonna have to pass this to know what is in it? This bill to know what's in it? Or are we gonna have some information?
The reinvestment fund is just the beginning, so we can start the talk in the negotiation. That's all this is about. This really doesn't make anything final. It creates an area out there that we designate. This is state law that requires us to do this. Before we can talk to these people about abatement and start into those discussions, we have to designate an area that they're requesting to build on as a reinvestment zone. That's state law.
Okay, so do they own the property yet? And have they started construction?
Well, I don't know if they own it or if they lease it. I have no way to know, and that's.
My understanding is it's a lease.
Yeah.
Or they have the option to lease.
Is construction started already?
No, absolutely not.
No construction started on this. With, there's being some well drills and some other things out there in preparation. They've got to start something.
So this meeting basically is a process, not a Q&A.
It's
Because
a
we can't
starting
find out
process.
anything until later on.
Yeah, that's what
But
it
it
is.
will not be voted on until we have another meeting that does have
That is
the
correct.
ability to have answers.
That is correct. Ellen Abernathy's got a question, represents the hospital.
Ellen Abernathy with Stonewall County Hospital, and I'm the board president. And I'm here to answer some questions about what our town is likely to receive because of this AI center. We're talking about these employees that are going to be with the center, but I'll talk about the employees that are already here. Well, our hospital is the largest employer of this county, and without this hospital, we don't have a town. If we go, the school would go, and it would be a disaster. Our hospital has a $14 million a year budget. And of that, $7 million is in employee payroll and benefits and what have you. I don't know how to tell you how difficult it is. Our board works very, very hard to keep the doors open, and we're struggling. As a matter of fact, Michael Moorhead, who is our CEO, sent me a text today. He was at a torch conference, which is an organization for rural and community hospitals, and the topic of discussion is there are hospitals who have 10,000 to 25,000 population, and they are struggling. And apparently, so are all of the rural hospitals in the state of Texas. I can't tell you exactly how many hospitals have shut down in the last 10 years, but it's significant, it's double digit. And we don't want to be one of those. The board has been very, very diligent in taking care of the funds that we do get. We get funds from Medicare, Medicaid, and private pay. That's the crux of the money that we receive. We receive $1.6 million a year in your tax dollars. And that's it. $17 million and we get 1.6. That's not a lot. We stretch it, we do the best we can with it. The hospitals are suffering, especially the rural hospitals, because of Advantage Care. Now, for cities, Advantage Care is great, but for communities like ours, it doesn't go well. We struggle to get them to pay, we struggle to advocate for our patients, and it doesn't usually go very well. The AI Center, from preliminary discussions, we are looking at approximately $8 to $9 million per year per building. And my understanding is there's going to be, what, 4 buildings initially?
4 to 6, yeah.
4 to 6 buildings.
Instead of 6.
We're looking at $32 million just coming into the hospital. Now let's talk about education. Yes, the school district, Hamlin School District, is that right? Hamlin?
I'm sorry?
Is it Hamlin School District that's getting the money? Which school district is getting? Hamlin. Okay. They're the ones that are getting some of the money for this. Our hospital, through us, we have education opportunities that we offer to our employees. We have a program where if someone wants to increase their educational capabilities, we help to defer some of the costs for their education. We also have an intern program that started this year. The board just did this year with the intern program. With that kind of money, we can negotiate with the school even more to help get the students up to par for any of the medical needs that our district is needing. Our EMS will increase with that kind of money. We can offer better EMS services. We can also offer television with specialists. We can't afford to lose this hospital. Right now, we have, as of April 6th, we have 8 days cash on hand. That's it. 8 days. We struggle. And it is, it's not that I want to scare you, but I hope I do. But we could lose our hospital if we don't get some money. Now, one of the interesting things is that with Medicare, Medicaid, the state and or the federal government, they'll give us money saying that we had so many patients and so they're going to reimburse us for those patients. But if at any point they change the rules and or they say that we did not accommodate as they saw fit, they will take some of that money back. Since I have been on the board, I have seen 300,000, 500,000 go back to the system. This is money that is like having a store. We get the money, and we don't have to get it back. And so we can use it for the services that we need. Yes, ma'am.
Now, did y'all receive funding from the solar panel deal?
We are about to receive some of that money. The first allotment, my understanding, is somewhere around 900,000, and thereafter, we're looking at probably 1.2 million. That helps. It helps a lot. 32 million helps even more. It's good stuff.
My question is, I'm not saying that they shouldn't build the data center. Wouldn't the tax money right now help the hospital?
They're going to
every year. No, I'm not talking about what they're going to hand out when they want to hand you out something.
We
I'm
will
talking about
take
tax
whatever.
money. I'm
Sally,
talking
we'll
about tax
take
money, Ellen,
anything that we
every
can
year.
get.
If you wait until year 11 and get the whole amount, the world may not even be here. And so that thing is going to go down in value. I mean, the software in it is like a telephone, after 2 years, an iPhone is obsolete. They want you to go buy a new one. So is it not better to get your tax money up front and you reinvest it instead of letting them take it and reinvest it with their $13 billion already?
I don't know how much money they have, and all I know is what the hospital needs.
I understand.
What these negotiations are bringing to the table.
But,
And what
but
they're bringing to the
doing
table.
the taxes, getting tax money every year, you'd rather have just a little piddly amount rather than a tax amount?
We don't know yet. We have not gone into negotiations on what they're going to offer us.
So how much do y'all think taxes will be a year for Dallas? How much, this might be how much taxes a year are we probably looking at that they're?
I think that's the answer to that, but I know what we get.
We're not going to get anything.
That's what
I don't think taxes will be close to that every year.
So you are saying that the hospital will receive at least $8 million per building every year?
I'd have to look at our model.
That's the conversation.
Or $11 million a year? I mean, because that's not what I had heard to begin with. If that's the case, that's much better than I had initially heard.
So, I mean, you're talking billions of dollars on just the
I
chips
understand. I'm
coming in.
just asking,
Value.
I mean, our budget's $2.2 million. Is the county gonna receive $11 million per building per year?
11 per
Approximately.
building per, I think for the first phase, I have to double check our numbers, but it's, I mean, it's a,
That is the initial.
right, so these are built where Crusoe is like, the best way to think of this is it's like an apartment building. Crusoe builds and owns the apartment building, and we need a tenant, which is Oracle, Microsoft, whoever the hyperscaler is, right? So if we sign, if they can sign a 10, 15, 20-year lease with them, then it's there for 20 years because the Crusoe, the building owner, has a locked-in tenant for 20 years. Then, you know, if you don't have a tenant, then the project doesn't get built, right? And if you don't have an abatement. Who? The tenant? Well, the tenant still has to pay because they have a contractual obligation to pay the rent.
They might be like that.
Okay, we've got lots of hands up. Do you have anything?
Does anybody have a question about the hospital? Okay, I ask that you very seriously consider this offer from this company because it is going to help our community and it's going to help our community in a big way.
Thank you, Doc. Colin, you have a question.
Observation, you're talking about specific numbers, you're talking about negotiating. Sounds kind of like you've already done the negotiating and this is just for show.
No.
Yes, I'm an attorney, so you know.
No, we've had discussions about the possibilities and what the possibilities are. And these are the possibilities. It could be more, it could be less, but I'm at least willing to go to the table and talk.
There's been no negotiations with Caruso.
It
comes from their application. Before they can do anything, they have to submit an application to get on the agenda to ask us to set up the reinvestment zone so that everything everybody's concerned about and everything can be negotiated. So they've submitted numbers and they've submitted their initial, here's what we want to have. That doesn't mean that's what Stonewall County is going to agree to. That doesn't mean that's what the hospital is going to agree to. They've submitted us an offer. They would like to have a tax abatement. Here's how much they would like to pay for it. And then from there, if the court decides, they'll set up a reinvestment zone. And then from there, we'll decide whether we're going to enter into a tax abatement with them or not. See if we can negotiate that tax abatement. That's what the process is. So the numbers they're quoting you, that's from their application. That doesn't necessarily mean that's all the county's going to get or that's all the hospital's going to get. That's just what they're offering now. All the hard work still is to come, right? That's what I have to work out with him and their attorneys is what is this abatement going to look like?
How public are the negotiations? I mean, I understand that, you know, negotiations, I've done it myself.
Right.
The mediations and all sorts of negotiations. But the bottom line is, you know, this is a very public issue here. And we would kind of like to know along the way instead of getting fait accompli. You know, we kind of want to have that openness to it. And we get a lot of empty promises along the way. And told a lot of things that we don't other state and federal.
On the confidentiality agreements, they are confidential. The negotiations are confidential. It's attorney-client privilege. They're clearly set by the statute. Now,
That's the question.
I don't want to overwhelm.
Who is your client?
Stonewall County.
Stonewall County. So we are all part of Stonewall County. That makes you your client.
We are Stonewall County.
That's right. That gives me two questions. One is, will Caruso provide us with the best case, worst case, and most likely case of your long-term projections? Off your project that you're about to do?
The estimated values?
No, I'm talking about your long-term projections, what you're gonna do, income, losses, expenses, everything else. I wanna see your business model. Will you make that public? Okay? As a question to you.
Is every other company in the market, is there public or their private business?
I just asked the question, okay? And will you make the contract that you're about to negotiate with him, will you make that public for comment?
We'll have to talk about it at the commissioners.
What's that?
That's not something I can commit to without talking to the judge and without talking to the commissioners. There are confidentiality requirements between attorneys and clients, and there's also confidentiality via statute when it comes to tax abatements. So irrespective of any confidentiality we have attorney-client, there are confidentiality provisions in the statute to protect tax abatement negotiations.
I understand. Confidentiality can be waived. I understand that. Now, I don't know if there's any legal binding on statute, but confidentiality can be waived. So I was just asking a question because we've been talking a lot of hypotheticals today about how much money this is going to make, how much money that's going to make, how much money this is going to make, how much water we're going to make. We won't know until we see the contract, and I'd like to see how much money they're looking at making. Just know how much of this potentially is being funneled into Stonewall County, or are we just being used as a facility so that they can increase their profits because we want more money. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the hospital needs money. I think the county needs money. I think everything around here needs money. But until we see the contracts, we won't know exactly how much those are. And you've asked about whether or not the water usage, about it's only going to be 2 houses. Well, I mean, a properly negotiated contract, as he well knows, will have some exceptions in it for what happens if. All right? I mean, we could go into the legal ease on this, but the bottom line is that'll be in the negotiation, and that's where the nuts and bolts of this thing will. We can talk about this till we're blue in the face, but that's where the nuts and bolts are going to be, is in that contract. And so, I'd like to see the contract prior to execution, and I'm not going to say you're going to hide behind confidentiality, but I'd like that to be waived so the rest of us can see it. Because here's the point. I mean, why shouldn't I be allowed to have my attorneys, Kelly Hart Coleman, Thompson and Knight, come in and take a look at it and say, Robert, that's a bad idea for you. I mean, that's going to hurt you. So, just something to think about.
We're going to be as open as possible. There will be probably some parts of this that will be confidential. I mean, that happens with any corporation. There's some things that's proprietary to them, but anything that's public record will be available to anybody who wants it. That's the law, and we abide by that. Now, we talk about hypotheticals all day long, but like you said, a lot of this stuff, we won't know the exact amount until we're there. I mean, but isn't that the case with anything when you get up every morning?
Absolutely, but before you execute,
you don't know what's going to happen today.
But before you execute the contract, why would you let us take a look at it?
So, if I may,
Well, the thing what we want to know is, are we going to find out that before you make a decision?
I'm sorry.
Exactly. So on the contract, by statute, by law, that has to be disclosed to all the tax entities 7 days prior to the court taking action. At that point in time, it is public, without any exception to confidential. That time it is public. So anybody that wants to can see a copy at that time. Now, can we work with Caruso to see if we can get to folks earlier, or they provide other information? I think they probably will. I think they're going to be very open in what they will give to the county. So we can't be pigeonholed yet because we haven't started. This is the first step to start. So we don't know what we're going to get into until we start that. But the county is going to be as open as they can. I think Caruso will be as open as they can, And I think the best thing for folks to do is if you have concerns, let the judge know, let the commissioners know, so we know what your concerns are, so we can address that. That's why we're here.
Right, and then right up, he's gonna bet again, that's what.
So, the question I would have, do you have a designated site for this AI plant? You already chose this part?
Yes, they have, it's in the application.
Is it out on 1835?
I'm sorry, I didn't
The
get what
local
you
user reservation.
Is it out on 1835?
I'm
So
sorry.
where are they gonna build?
Is it on 1835?
1835?
Yeah.
Is it east of 1835 or west?
In the same state.
It goes
He's
across.
got a map right here, sir.
Yes, the government must have done the same, because I
So I think what everybody's saying here, and we don't have intentions of stopping the AI plant. Now, there's some people that like to stop it. But what we're wanting is a fair deal on the tax abatement. Now, the tax abatement that this court did with the solar was a 10-year abatement, is that correct?
It was.
With a 50% reduction in value, is that correct?
They received 50% abatement on their taxes.
So,
And their pilot payment back to them was 50%.
say that again.
The pilot payment back to the county was worth 50% of the taxes they said.
So they're paying half of what the value, proposed value of the solar farm is. Yeah, what you just said.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, well, so, I don't know, we're proposing that the, of course, I can just go on there and say $700 million project, I don't know. By the tax rate, that's about, is it 2.5%, what you can tax?
The tax rate now, 91.47, I believe you.
Point
Per 100
91%.
acres.
So my concern is with the solar farm that we've already made a deal with 10-year tax abatement, they're paying half of what the value of the property is. You're also going to incur depreciation. That's a depreciable asset out there, and in 5 years, they can depreciate those solar panels to zero.
That's not
No,
correct.
that's not correct.
It's set by state law that they depreciated a 10-year schedule to no less than 25%,
no less than 20%.
no less than 20%.
They ain't out there, same thing.
No, it doesn't depreciate, the chips will depreciate probably on a 5 to 10-year life, but the building is gonna be on a 25.
What's your estimated cost of that out there? Just rough. Give us some numbers.
Generally, to be on the safe side, like, what, 1.2 million or billion per 200 megawatt building?
$1.2 billion. So
That's the building, the chips are the,
but whenever it's full, what's it gonna be?
whatever it's what,
Whenever you fill it up with all the computers, what's the value gonna be?
another 6 billion on the chips,
6
so
billion.
7 billion or so.
I think, Judge, what we want, we just don't want these people making all these payments, basically, because they have all kinds of tax abatements anyways. They don't pay any federal tax on electricity. They get a special tax abatement because this is a low-income district, state of Texas. That's one reason they picked these places. They're tax exempt there, federal tax. So they got all kinds of deals, and these are billionaires. It's just, they got a lot of money, and so you guys are trying to make the best deal for this county you can make. And we applaud that. We're all in agreement that we want the best deal we can make out of these guys. Okay? We're not saying don't come. But we're gonna ask you, we're gonna challenge you in this court to make and you, the lawyer, which I've done business with him, smart, make the best deal you can. Okay? Don't just roll over and say, well, we'll take.
But we can only start doing that if we designate this reinvestment program today. I
So-
mean, that's the only way we can
Here's
make that better.
what I'm gonna say, and then I'll sit down and start talking. I don't think these people are going anywhere, because what's going on, there's a lot of communities don't want these AI facilities. Because of high trash, because of noise, water use, environmental concerns that he says they're gonna address. People aren't lining up to want these AI facilities. I'm telling you, people are getting smart in the state of Texas. All the big major highlights are gonna come in and they're gonna condemn land, landowners. There's gonna be a lot going on here. And talking about all the employment, they're gonna put in man counts and bring in all the specialized people to build these facilities. They're not gonna hire local people, we're not qualified. They don't meet the requirements. So, just make us a good deal, let's go.
Right there, the local man that work for them.
Who are you, sir? Sir, what is your name? Who is speaking? What is your name?
Brian.
Brian who?
Snodgrass.
Okay, thank you.
Wouldn't it be all right if we know you will do about it? That's why we're trying to start Everybody else can hear this, come on now, it's me. As far as skilled labor, yes, there is a certain percentage of people that have to be skilled labor. But the work that is going on out there, the skilled labor is trained in the field. My profession, I'm a journeyman line mechanic. I'm a journeyman line. I do medium voltage work, which is voltage over 1,000 volts. That's what I do. I've done it for 30 years. I'm company trained. When I started with the company, I started on a shovel. 30 years ago. My foreman said, here's your shovel, go get some. The people that I took to the AI Center in Abilene, I had 4 journeyman linemen with me. When I left that center, I was over 97 people. Still had 5 journeyman linemen. The rest of them was trained in the field for the scope that they were doing. Journeyman electricians, the same thing. You have one journeyman electrician, he can oversee 10 apprentices. If you want to know how easy it is to apply for an apprentice electrician license, it costs you $40. Comes right out of the money. Now to progress into the journeyman stage, you have to log the hours to get the journeyman license. The skilled labor that you're talking about is trained in the field. The computer techs that are going to be there afterwards monitoring the components of the building for the engineers, for the computer engineers. They're going to educate people. Okay? And I'm not saying that the people
that work for me, and the people that are thriving drastically because of this center. I've got people that work for me that had a car that couldn't drive around the block. Now they own 2 brand new vehicles.
So did you get hired like from here in Astronaut, wherever you
I've lived here for 10 years.
So you were living here when you got hired?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
From here?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And you applied for the job like you would any other job?
Actually, the electrical contractor out there called me.
Okay.
They called me.
Because I guess that's one of my questions, if it's, let's say, an online application, and let's say that you live in Odessa, and that's your job, that's what you're doing, okay, and you would sign up for that job, and then they're gonna hire you for people who have a background, right?
Well, it's true.
But are they gonna hire kids fresh out of high school who choose to go?
Our son
No,
got hired.
Before they hire somebody who's.
Our son got
No,
hired.
no.
Fresh out of high school.
I've got 2 individuals that graduated from Ashmont High School last year, making $160,000 a year.
19 years old. For how long? No college education, 0 college education.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me one time.
How long?
What
How long? Okay, here's how long, We're talking about Ashmont. We spent 3 years in Abatement. We traveled 6 months to Amarillo. We're looking at 3 to 4 years in Haskell. Same guy. Same people. After that, it may be Oklahoma. It may be Louisiana. But the deal is, there is no industry in this county that pays near what the construction part of this job pays.
And how many of those
And,
people?
and I'm not just talking,
How many people is gonna pay that from this county?
Get the job.
you know, here's the
And
deal.
the school gets no funding, absolutely no funding.
So we don't get-
That's wrong. That's wrong. He doesn't address that, that's wrong. We're not talking about the school.
But they
We're
get
talking
no
about
funding.
No, what is that we know today.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
can tell you what is today, working through the, and
I'm glad you enjoyed your last conference. That's all I have to say.
So when you get, when y'all get assigned, y'all, you said Oklahoma or maybe, like, how much your next status in?
I traveled up to the Google site that's going on in Amarillo.
Okay, and I think that
To get
that's
them,
one.
this is on base to go, for their local workforce to go.
Well-
I went up and trained their local
But
workforce.
I think that that's part of the deal, it's just like, okay, 3 or 4 years. That makes you a temporary resident for our county, that's not a long term. And like, in order, and that's one of the things, if you wanna boom, you also want people coming too. If you are gonna do one, that shop at your grocery store, that shop at your hardware store, that go to also, that contribute to the community as well.
But what if they like it here, really like it here?
Again, as the judge says, we
Okay,
can't go
folks,
with what
we
is.
about to be just what you did. That was not a question for at least 30, 40 minutes here. We're gonna go to her right now.
Ellen Simmons. And I think, if I'm correct, what I've heard so far is that, the AI plant will not use our water. It will benefit the hospital, but not the school district, except they will have payments in lieu of taxes agreement, which can be negotiated to negotiate the best deal we can? Or would this project go ahead without any of this tax abatement or negotiations or whatever?
That's correct. Nobody in here, I would suspect, wants Big Brother to tell them what they can and cannot do with their own property. Now, I certainly don't want these guys telling me what to do with my land out here east of town. And I don't think any know it. But if the landowner makes his decision for his economic benefit and viability, then who are we to tell him no? Okay? Now, like you said, once that's done, and it's apparently been done, now I don't know if they bought the land, they leased the land long term, I have no idea. We haven't got into that yet. But we're not gonna tell those landowners what they can and cannot do out there with their property. That's their business, and as it should be. So, given that, you were absolutely correct. And once that's done, then we do, Commissioner's Court, along with Mr. Ledley and his advice for us, we make the best out of that proposition that we can. Now, one of the things that everybody in here, your main concern is what's best for this county. These four gentlemen sitting up here, and that's exactly what we think about every time we come into this courthouse, is what's best for this county and all of its people. Not some personal agenda, like some folks may or may not have. This Commissioner's Court, we leave our personal stuff out in the parking lot, but we've discussed that many times. When we walk into this courthouse to do our business that we've been elected to do, we're going to do what we feel is absolutely what's best for this county and all its people. You look up here, a lot of these guys are some of the major landowners in the county. And we get accused of trying to screw everybody over on our taxes. We're not going to do that to ourselves, I promise you. We're going to do what's best for everybody. That's what we do in here, and that's what we do. Let's lay it back to back.
So do the Stonewall County citizens have a vote to say yes or no, we want this in our county? Are we going to take a?
Will we have a county vote for this? No, ma'am.
Why not?
We'll have a vote right here with these four gentlemen. That's what we've been elected to do.
By law, it's not allowed for this. By law, any taxpayer has to come to the Commissioner's Court under 312 of the Texas tax code.
So what's the point?
So what are we doing?
I'll get back to you just a second, right here. This gentleman here, he's been wanting.
I got one question for Caruso. Is this system going to be connected to the electric grid?
It would be, and most of them are connected, but it doesn't mean they can't build their own power plant or tie in with some other renewables to do the electricity, so as not to be a drain on the current.
So we don't know what that's going to do to our electric rates either.
We're trying to build our own power
And
plant.
I'm going to beat up on you a little bit, so I apologize. I understand that we don't have any students in South Dakota County that are going to handle school district. Why haven't we come to tax base again? Why are they not paying the Stonewall County?
Everybody saw the ball.
It was something that was done
I know it was
back in
years
the
ago.
30s, 40s, and what I understand, it was because of busing.
Right.
County roads from here to Yonkers, and walk either where you can sit down and choose it. Right Chapel area, watch you get through down there, and it's just 2 miles. Something with that is south, 2 miles. Leadership at that time, whatever we decided was the best, allow those kids to be down there.
Why hasn't that been up? Probably not. Everybody knows that it was way back before World War II, so I understand it's been a long time. If we're not sending the kids on their school, we don't know that.
This is a church.
I
absolutely not, I never say no, because you don't know what's there. The way to begin to think about this is, if I've got a property and I'm renting, then I don't know if I'm not gonna build any more, I'm not gonna get financed to get built. So, what these hyperscalers, the folks who would bring the servers, the computers themselves into the building, that's the intent, right? So if we can get them to invest in us, then we can get the financing to build the project. The abatement is there to entice them to come to us, because those hyperscalers are looking at every data center potentially to be built across the US and outside of the US. So they don't care where it goes. They're looking out for their return on investment. And for us today, our apartments, the shiniest and the first thing to build, these are the ways we get incentivized, right? And if the tax abatement is an incentive to build industry.
Gary, you're with me.
Same as the ag exemption, right? You get.
I already know about deal like this.
Don't worry.
It's
good,
good.
it's good.
Use your land for ag, you don't pay your full rate, you're paying, 95%, or you're paying 5% of your taxes into perpetuity. And so,
So yes or no?
I won't,
You're gonna,
I
you're
can't say
not
no.
gonna construct if you don't get a tax
It is
abatement.
significantly less likely to get funding to build a project if you don't get abatement.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, the county like this one would be very important. We started to work with.
3 or 4.
How many said no?
Can I have the names, please?
Haskell, Nolan, we're working on a different company in Milam.
What about
and
Stevens?
I'm not on the, if there is. Nolan approved theirs.
Is there any others? Sure.
Well, I mean, I know Fisher has one, but I didn't work on that one. Shackelford has one, but I didn't work on that one. Haskell,
You're already building the house.
we're not, that's not our project. The one that's under construction. Crusoe building in Taylor and building in Amarillo, which is Armstrong County. They're building in those two. I'm working with Crusoe here in Stonewall and Castle and Nolan.
We've been here a long time, and I see people really get frustrated. Let's wrap this up. I've got some statistics I want to share with you. These are the real deal in Stonewall County. This is what's happening. In 2024, we still had an active Lions Club. And Dina Mitchell was our program director. The President of the United States gave a State of the Union address. She listened. The next day she came to me and she said, "Ronnie, what would you think about you giving a State of the County address at our next Lions Club?" I told her I think that's a real good idea. And so I presented the program, studied, look, see where we're at that day, and then I presented it. I'd like to share some of the information that was relevant in 2014. That's 12 years ago. In 2014, the total assessed value for Stonewall County was $364,084,437. Mineral values of that amounted to $303,602,980. That's the oil companies. Because of that, the oil companies were paying 80.4 cents of every ad valorem dollar that the county took in. Local property owners were only paying 19.6 cents for every $100 or for every dollar that we collected in ad valorem taxes. 12 years ago. The budget that we're working on today, which is 2025 numbers, our mineral values dropped from about $303,602,950. What we're operating on today is $130,429,659. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a 57+% in loss in mineral values in this county. Let that sink in just a minute. That's 12 years. This county has relied on oil properties since the early 50s to operate on. That's a fact. You had a business involved in that all those years. Ladies and gentlemen, the oil is playing out in Stonewall County. It just is. That's what we relied on. The tax rate in 2014, when the rural revenues were up, were 53.23 cents per $100 in value. Right now today, because you property owners are paying a whole lot longer share of that, and the values have gone down, we're paying 91.47 cents per $100 value. That's gone up. What, 300%, 400%? What our local property owners are now paying the share of the expenses of this county. And the expenses that the county has to look at every year never declines. Most of what we do here is either designed through the state constitution or it's through state legislation that becomes statutory law. We have to provide certain services. Ladies and gentlemen, this county, personnel-wise, is at the bare minimum. We've got 6 road hands to maintain 330 miles of county road. Stop and think about that, if you may. That's a pretty heavy load on what we call our cardiac crew. And one of the reasons it's a cardiac crew is because most of these guys are retired from some other thing, younger men with the CDL and heavy equipment operation skills that go to work in the oil patch, making 5 times what they make here. But we're paying them what we can. And they work hard because they know that paycheck will be there every month. Also, 15 years ago, January 1st, 2011, when I took office as your county judge, the population in Stonewall County officially was 1,495 people. January 1st, 2026, the official census of Stonewall County was 1,144 souls. That's a decline of 350 people in the 15 years that I've been in this courthouse. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a 24+% decrease in our population. And I think every one of you understand why that's going down. We don't have jobs here to keep our young people at home. There's a couple of families that we were talking about earlier that their children's here. They are so fortunate that it's hard to even comprehend because half my children are not here and probably never will because they can't find gainful employment here like they can someplace else. Ladies and gentlemen, we can even take advantage of the opportunities that's presented to us that will maybe only benefit us in maybe a financial manner. Maybe just monetary is all can. But just think about it to me. If the hospital has a considerable amount of money coming into them every year, probably nearly as much as their total budget is now, think about what they can do. Instead of looking at maybe closing their doors next year or the year after, they will be a viable hospital in this county that we have to have for many years into the future. Because if we lose that hospital, there goes our largest employer with the highest pay rates in the county. When they go under, the nursing home goes under because they own the nursing home, what happens to our school at that time? When all those people have to go somewhere else to find a job. Folks, we're in a critical situation in Stonewall County. Now, I don't want you to sound like I'm trying to give the store away. I told you, Joe and Caruso here that earlier. I'm stating facts and where we're at. Stonewall County is dying, folks. It's just a simple matter of fact. Now, we can sit here and do nothing and say, well, we don't want anything. We like what we've got. No. 12 years, we've lost 24% of our population. There's always a tipping point when it may happen slowly, but at some point, then we go down fast. I grew up in a small community in this county called Peacock. When I started to school at Peacock Elementary in 1952, the total enrollment in Peacock was almost the same as what the total enrollment is in Ashland right now. 11 years later, we closed the doors for the last time in Peacock School. Folks, it can happen overnight. We've got to do something to stop this slide. We've got to do something to make this county more viable and can maybe progress some. We've got to get something done. There's no other industry going to come here. I was in the construction business for 25 years before I came into this courthouse, and we worked in heavy industry. And there's one common denominator in every heavy industry plant that I worked in all the way from St. Louis to Houston. And that was a large, viable water system. We don't have it. But this data center is proposing to come here anyway, because they've got the water system pretty well figured out. But we don't have it yet, and they know that. They knew that when they came. Folks, we've got to do something. And so I'm going to, one more question.
When is the vote? When are the commissioners?
I'm sorry.
When are the commissioners going to take the vote?
When are they voting?
When are the commissioners going to get the vote? When we're going to take the vote? Right now.
This is just on the
Because of the stats,
I'm
the
getting there.
statistics I gave y'all about this county and where we're at as a county. Because if we don't do something, we're going to continue to lose population, and eventually we're going to lose that hospital. When we lose the hospital, we may not lose our school, but it will be almost in name only. And because of that, right now, as the county judge, I'm going to make a proposal that we adopt this reinvestment zone as proposed by Caruso, so we can go forward with it. And that is my motion, that we adopt the proposal as presented to us for a reinvestment zone out here in the southeast part of the county. And I'll leave it up to the commissioners to discuss.
May I say one more thing before y'all vote?
I'm sorry?
I said, may I say one more thing before y'all vote?
You got one question coming, and that's it. Because you've already asked
one,
about it.
one statement, I promise. Okay, I've always just been told, okay, making a decision out of fear.
I'm
is
sorry?
not- I've always been told making a decision from fear is not from our God.
I'm not.
And that's all I'll say.
I'm operating from reality. That's the reality of this county. The proposal is on the stage. Do we have a second? Your message seconds. Any further discussion from the commissioners? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion is carried.